Right, once more into the tower, and then back to Eureka, or at least the road to it. I somehow get the feeling that actually climbing the tower is going to be even more dangerous than going through the dungeon inside of it. I know I've already joked about it, but this really feels like a dungeon within a dungeon within a dungeon. To be fair, it's certainly unique to come across a dungeon with so many layers, but still. I probably should have done some healing between fights. I should probably also consider using all those regular potions we've stocked up to try to top things off. Granted, the regular potions would probably burn out faster than the high potions if I was doing things like that, but hey, at least then the regular potions would feel like they're getting used instead of just sitting in our inventory, waiting for no apparent reason. Seriously, it's one thing to hoard elixirs and X potions. You can't buy more of those, and if things go especially bad at the final boss, you need some absolutely ridiculously powerful healing items at your disposal. But regular potions don't have that kind of excuse. Yeesh! Barely been in here for long and we've still spent 10 high potions. Definitely not a good sign by any means. Well, I suppose we've made it back to the point when we had to pull back last time. I should probably slow the footage back down for a while then. I suppose I could keep fast-forwarding until we get to the next actually interesting moment, but something about that wouldn't quite feel right to me for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. Well, that's certainly a unique-looking creature. Dear God, that thing looks like a boss, but it's just a random encounter down here. I know, the end of the game can get away with that sort of thing. It doesn't change the fact that it's kinda disconcerting to see, though. Huh. Was kind of expecting trouble since that chest was on a podium. I suppose an item is only really important if it has a distinctive-looking sprite, then. Looks like a sword and sheath there. Ah, Masamune. I'm sure that Brett is going to be able to use that. And now we've got a female ninja attacking us. Considering how durable the male ninja was, let's treat this Kunoichi like a boss. Well, magic spells certainly didn't do all that much to her. And she's throwing some hard magic right back at us. Really hard for me to tell just how magically resistant or powerful we are in comparison to her, considering we threw a similar spell at her, and she shrugged it off. Dear God, that would have knocked Brett out even if he had full health at the time. Nothing we could have done to save him there. Well, at least Bio is hitting her hard. And now Azul's down. I've got to admit, it's kind of funny that all that's left of him is his hat. I don't think we've ever seen anything like that before when one of our team is down. Usually, We see the full body laying there. Really not too sure how useful haste is when she's been using magic spells. I'm pretty sure that until the active time battle system from later Final Fantasies comes about, haste only improves your physical attacks. It doesn't actually make you faster or do any of your frickin' moves in any order. Anyway, nothing we could have done to prevent Azul from getting taken out for a second time in that fight. Well, at least Carmine could survive one shot from that spell. It was a damn close thing, but hey, I'll take what I can get. And hey, we got lucky enough that all 4 of our team was on their feet when that girl was beaten. Right. Not one person actually leveled up there. Still, we won that fight and now equipped the gear we just earned. Lowers our accuracy a little bit, but it looks like Brett is our hardest hitting physical fighter now. Certainly nice to see, but then I suppose the numbers on the stat screen and equipment screen aren't all that important to me. I don't generally look at them anyway. What matters is what we see when we're fighting, and unfortunately, at least when it comes to armor and shields, it feels like our equipment doesn't really mean much of anything as we keep pushing forward. Okay, so we've got some oddly broken bridges in an area where down means seeing the stars. Does anyone else smell some hidden paths here? Can you even call them hidden paths when they're gonna be pretty damn blatant? And that's another pair of dead mystical horses. And some high potions to spend in order to heal. Again, those things have been draining a lot faster than I'm fully comfortable with, and we've got more boss fights in our immediate future. An unknown number of them in this dungeon, since each important item has another one to go through. For some reason, I was expecting the likes of Excalibur to be held by a knight, not some kind of gladiator-looking guy. Well, Quake did more than it usually does when I pull it out. That's gotta mean something. Okay, so he's got an ability that lets him heal to a degree. That's kind of annoying, but hey, we're causing more damage per round with just one person than he can heal. It could have been a lot worse. Let's go back to using Pyro, since Earthquake for some reason did less damage the second time. Definitely feels like we've got this fight well in hand. I could be wrong, but it still feels funny that the fight for Excalibur feels less dangerous to me than the fight for Masamune, especially since Excalibur is far more consistently treated as the ultimate weapon in this series. Really? He's got an instant death spell? I'm sorry, but I'm just not a fan of instant death moves, period. Not when they're used on me, and even when I have the option to use them on the enemy. It just feels pretty damn cheap to me, no matter how I look at it. Doesn't matter if it's a role-player game, a third-person shooter, or whatever, I'm just not a fan of that sort of crap. And Carmine is taken down just before he can do anything after just being revived. Again, the way turns are handled in the first 3 Final Fantasy games makes it incredibly difficult to really make tactical decisions. It's not what I'd call broken, but it's just unpredictable enough that when you're going through a fight that isn't one-sided in either direction, it's kind of annoying to deal with. This fight is just close enough to even that it's highlighting that issue with the combat system. Well, Carmine might not have been awake for the end of the fight, but he certainly put in the work to make it happen, though it's still a bit ironic that this fight was for his weapon, and he's the only member of the party who can't get the experience points from said fight. Should I bother asking about the glowing gems in the rocks there? I'm sure they're just part of the background, not anything we can actually interact with. Still, they are incredibly attention-grabbing, and I'm pretty sure they weren't anywhere near as eye-catching in the original release of this game. And now we've got a recolor of Titan as a random encounter. Yet another boss fight sprite being reused for just regular fights. Sure, it didn't take long to take him down, but I kind of have an issue with boss sprites being used like that. I'm also not a fan of sprites that look like they were meant for random encounters actually turning out to be boss fights, like what we've seen with some of the things that we've had to deal with just to gain these extra powerful weapons. Again, not much point in giving us hidden paths in here, considering it's so easy to find those paths. Right, 2 hits and that fight was done. I certainly wouldn't mind seeing that more for a while, at least. At the very least, our supplies would appreciate that. Another sword? I'm sorry, what sword comes after Masamune and Excalibur? Ugh. We'll go after the staff first, since I'm hoping that the enemy is weak to physical attacks there. Well, that's quite a few heads on that thing. I'm not really seeing anything that shows this thing is really inspired by the mythological monster its name came from. That was a sea creature. And the only thing that looks vaguely aquatic about this thing is the blue thing coming out of its stomach. And my brain can't help feeling that that might actually be its intestines that are hanging out of its weird body. Just a very strange appearance for this creature, I know. It matters more how it fights than how it looks, and with every other boss down here, he is hitting hard physically and has some brutal spell work to throw at us. Still, at least this thing is especially weak to bio, that's very much appreciated, and at least none of these bosses have really demanded that we change classes to deal with them. So, Holy and Flare, huh? At least we can survive a hit from Flare, though the key word is A, as in singular. And he's got healing magic. Wonderful. And he's healed over 4,000 points in a single spell. Wonderful. Well, at least that implies we're making the monster worried. And to be fair, it's hard to be annoyed by that considering how much healing I tend to do in boss fights in this series. It's one of our primary advantages against the hordes of enemies we fight against in role-player games in general. That just evens the odds. Well, we did more than 4,000 damage in that round. Well, Carmine is 1 inch from death again. And that does it. We're done with another boss. This certainly feels like a solid number of boss fights for one clip. The question is, does the white mage or black mage get this staff? Wait, we gained 2 new classes from gaining this item? What the hell? I thought we were done gaining classes in this game since we gained the power of the last crystal. Sure, it was weird that we didn't get the ninja class since that was a thing back in the original Final Fantasy as an upgrade to the thief class, but it's more weird how we gained 2 new classes to use out of nowhere. The Sage is probably a magic-focused one, while the Ninja, well, it'll be able to throw the shurikens we've been finding and probably do some black magic as well. Well, that's something to think about next time. For now, we're going to fight our way out of this dungeon and recover as much as possible before making our next push. I'm definitely not in any hurry to get things done around here, that's for sure. I want to be as careful as possible. I was a bit worried that our new staff might cause some healing to the enemy since the description said something about that staff doing the cure spell somehow. Does that just mean if you throw the staff at the enemy? Why the hell would you throw an irreplaceable staff when the magic classes don't get great weapons in general? Seriously, I had Azul stick with a low-end bow with the low-end arrows for an obscene amount of time of the game, simply because I didn't like his other equipable options as a black mage. And I probably wouldn't have done that in any other version of this game, because a Pixel Remaster removes the problem of needing to constantly replenish arrow ammo for anyone who uses a bow. Well, Carmine's not taking too much abuse per hit, but clearly Brett's armor just isn't as good as his. And those monsters didn't even get a chance to try to wear us down some more. Definitely a good sign that we're getting stronger. And lovely. On our way back out, we're dealing with a King Behemoth, because apparently regular behemoths aren't enough for us anymore. It's also a bit nice to see that behemoths don't have counterattacks like they will in Final Fantasy IV. I probably made that observation before, but dear God, Final Fantasy IV really overused the counterattack gimmick from our enemies across the entire game. Ugh. In other news, it's actually kind of a bit funny that Thanatos is an easy foe in comparison to a massive horned beast. The demon doesn't even have a chance to summon help here. Right, so we've got an ambush. It's certainly been a while since we've had to deal with one of those, and I am not looking forward to any future ones in this game or any of the others in this series that I managed to get to. Sure, we can handle it, but that kind of random encounter just feels annoying no matter how capable. Getting into fights is unpredictable enough around here. Did we really need to add one more random element in a gimmick that's already randomized by its very name? And here's the other boss fight that's been turned into a random encounter. I know we've already seen it before, but and apparently this random encounter managed to take Carmine down before I had a chance to react for no apparent reason. His armor means nothing. Ah, well, we're out of that dungeon now. Time for rest, supplies, and saving. How many more times are we gonna have to do this before we're done with this dungeon, and with it, the game? Certainly more than I'd probably like, that's for sure. Looks like I'm clearing out our inventory for whatever that's worth. Not much, considering how much money we already have at this point of the game and how massive our bag is in the Pixel Remaster.